It's that time again for What's Your Story? I'm your host, Sharita Williams, and today my guest is going to be a new broadcaster on WYTV7. Please help me welcome Dr. Sarah Williams. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
So Sarah, tell our viewers a little bit about you.
Absolutely. I'm very interested in sharing my story, and I want to first and foremost thank you so much for the invitation. I am known professionally as a licensed therapist. I am nationally and board certified, and in the Commonwealth of Virginia, I'm licensed. My specialty is in grief, stress, and trauma. I actually followed the journey to becoming a therapist after overcoming my own challenges. I actually was a professor, so I'm a professor turned therapist, and I decided to pursue licensure so that I could help others through the journey that I had been through.
So Sarah, I always tell everybody, the name of my show is What's Your Story? And everybody has a story. And so it gives me, great pleasure to know that, our broadcaster, one of our new broadcaster wants to come on and share their story. So tell our audience a little bit about your grief and how did that catapult you into becoming a grief therapist.
Oh, absolutely. It's not like I had not lost individuals in my life. But what happens is grief is very tricky. It can occur in layers, and we can find ourselves kind of overlooking our grief and covering it up with busyness. For me, it was school and pursuing my career. So I was pursuing school, I was doing my career, and I had significant losses in my life. But it was only until I lost my mom to cancer that I was just extremely devastated over that loss, because I love my mom and we were very close. I thought that I dealt with it. I cried. I was helping my children. I got my children in therapy. I did those things. I thought I was ready to go back to work, and I was starting to resume life. And just a short time after that loss, my husband was also diagnosed with cancer, and he passed away. It was at that moment that I did significantly experience that deeper, darker part of grief, because now my grief is known as complicated grief, because I have allowed it to go on for so long untreated. And I became extremely depressed because of multiple losses. And then without, I guess, the distraction of caregiving for a mother, and then having lost my children's father, it required me to have this independence that I was not accustomed to having in terms of being responsible for my own emotional health, because I was always focused on someone else externally. So I went through the steps of trying to solve it on my own, and I couldn't do that. And then I had a lot of trouble finding a therapist that would be willing or capable of working with someone that is educated, that has a doctorate, that's a professional. That surprisingly, I had a hard time locating folks that would be willing to accept that I was lost. I was hurting, I was lost. And yes, I knew textbook wise what to do, but the application part of it, like, how do I translate that from what I'm experiencing into real life that would be something that would be beneficial to me and my children? Because literally, and I've said this before, that I was in such a dark place. If it wasn't for my children, I probably wouldn't be here. That part of me that's responsible for them, and they were old enough to know that it wasn't normal for me to be isolating so much and to be alone and be in my room so much, that it forced me to deal with it.
So looking back, I know I lost my mom at an early age, and it's ironic because one of One of my coworkers today, we were discussing that, how does that feel? And I said, I still grieve periodically, but not a lot. So how much is too much when it comes to grieving? Or is there not a limitation in grieving?
Everyone grieves differently. When you ask the question, how much is too much? If the grief is to the point that you are impaired, that you are not practicing self-care, that you're letting your, not just your emotional needs, but your physical needs also suffer. That includes eating well, exercise, your social needs. Are you rejecting social invitations? You're isolating, you're no longer participating in the activities you normally do. You have now basically moved from just someone that's surviving grief to someone that's likely now impaired, experiencing depression, and depending on how the grief occurred. I lost individuals in my life to tragedy. I lost a brother to gun violence. I never dealt with that because of all the other variables that were going on. Witnessing two people that I love dearly die from cancer is traumatizing in itself, and all the factors that went along with that. Having to experience the grief without social support and without the support of family, it made the grief much worse. And then when you're grieving and you're trying to parent at the same time, yes, I was focused on my children because as a mother, we put our children first, and we want to make sure they're good. But that actually complicates that process. So when you say how much is too much, well, when you get to the point where you feel like you have no function in this world, that it is that you've declined to the point that you start thinking very dark, dysfunctional thoughts, that's when it's too far.
I agree with that. Looking back, I sought counseling as well. And I always tell people, I'm a poster child for counseling because counseling is a great thing. People think, oh, if I get counseling, there's something wrong with me. Well, there's something wrong with you if you don't get counseling, because mental health is real, grieving is real, everything is a process. And with that being said, Dr. Williams, who do you target? What age group do you target, or do you see every age in your practice?
In my practice, by default, I would see a lot of professional middle-aged women because I'm that identifying person. I look like them. We have, similar backgrounds, and there's a relatability, and that's very important when you seek a therapist. However, I also have experience working with children as young as 5 that has either lost a parent, a grandparent, a sibling, and as old as 65. But my specialty is somewhere in that middle range because of the need and the population that tends to gravitate towards me.
Absolutely. So in your, how long have you been practicing, Dr. Williams?
I have been licensed since 2017. I was a resident for 4 years prior to that. And then if you say, just unlicensed counseling being that shoulder to cry on, that's been my entire life. I've always been that person that people can go to, that trusted, that they could get support from.
So Dr. Williams says, if some of our viewers are interested in becoming a therapist, what is the process of becoming a licensed therapist?
First and foremost, you have to receive your 4-year degree, and that can be in psychology, counseling, social work, etc. You then have to proceed and get your master's degree, and that can be in licensed professional counseling, clinical mental health counseling, and or social work. After you finish your master's degree, then you complete what's known as the clinical residency. And depending on the state that you are in, that can take between 2,500 to 3,800 working hours. And included in that is what's known as clinical supervision. I am a board certified clinical supervisor, meaning that I can provide the supervision needed that residents must seek to have that type of supervision in order to complete their licensure, and then they take a licensure exam.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll return after the break with Dr. Williams, and she'll tell us more about her practice and her new show that's going to be aired on WYTV7. And if you're out there and you're suffering from any type of mental health, please, please seek help. You can call the National Hotline for Mental Health. That's 1-800-273-8255 or 1-800-273-TALK. We'll be right back after this message. We're back with Dr. Sarah Williams. She is a licensed therapist and she is in the Virginia area. Please help me welcome Sarah back to the show. Sarah, when we left off, you were telling us about becoming a licensed therapist. Tell our viewers how they can get in contact with you.
Sure. I have a phone number that's really easy to remember, and it is 877-377-DRSARAW. That's 877-377 Dr. Sarah W, but it's no H in the phone number.
All right. So, and Sarah, you have no age limit with your clients, is that correct?
Currently, because we are providing telehealth, we are not doing clients under 8 years of age. We are doing clients between at least 8 to 10 years and above. I'm also primarily working with women that are professional, your employee assistance programs, your military personnel, etc. So pretty much because I'm only providing telehealth, then the younger children are probably not necessarily appropriate because I don't do face-to-face. I also wanted to share that I've expanded my reach where my licensed work is within the state of Virginia, but I'm providing mental health coaching pretty much throughout the US and international. As a coach, I am affiliated with the McLean Institute, which is through the Harvard Medical School. And that provides me additional opportunities for continuing education, et cetera. So I'm able to provide grief coaching, mental health coaching, stress coaching, trauma coaching, et cetera. And also I failed to mention that I am on Instagram at DRSARAH.W.
All right, thank you. Now, being a survivor of so much tragedy, how did that make you evolve into becoming a public speaker? You're an advocate for women. You are a health expert. How did you evolve?
I had always been naturally a helper. That is instinct. My instinct is to reach out and to help others. I survived my tragedy, and through my faith, it was an assignment given to me that I needed to reach out and help others. So I decided first and foremost to become a licensed therapist. I already had my doctorate, and then I went back to school and re-credentialed and got the requirements and took the board exams to become a therapist. And then from there, I realized that you're face to face and it's just one me. And in order to reach the masses, then you have to be able to reach larger audiences. So I had the opportunity to have a television show in the Hampton Roads community in Virginia. And through that television show, then there were other media opportunities. So I've been featured in several magazines and major networks speaking about mental health and health in general.
So can you elaborate to our audience exactly what a psychotherapist does?
A psychotherapist, if we examine that, we look at psychotherapy as a field that, yes, we provide therapy, but we're specialized in your traumas, your cognitive behavioral therapy, and a lot of the more intensive work that's required to help individuals overcome challenges.
So, Dr. Williams, tell us what is new with you? What is the new project that you're working on?
But the newest project, which I'm so excited about, which you can see behind me, is the reality therapy with Dr. Sarah Williams. I'm so excited to be a part of the WYTV7 community of broadcasters, where I will be able to bring my mental health message to our community of viewers. The show will air on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. and I will be working with guests that will be willing to share their story, talk about mental health, get a dose of Dr. Sarah's reality therapy. And also, I'd like to connect with other licensed professionals, coaches, and individuals that are stakeholders in the mental health community that would like to come on board and help support me and support our vision and what we're doing.
So Dr. Sarah, go ahead and give your website, your website or your email address again, please.
Okay. My email address is drsarah@drsarahw.org. My website is drsarahw.org.
So I think the name reality therapy is so thought-provoking, and it actually it's so catchy. So how did you come up with that name? Because people think reality, but reality that has such a great pun.
Thank you. Well, actually, given one that ascribes to the field of reality therapy, I needed a dose of reality therapy when I was going through my challenges. And reality therapy, in essence, requires you to take some level of accountability for your future. Yeah, it's horrible what happened to you in the past, but you got to be in the here and now. You got to be in the present. What can you control today to get you to your tomorrow? That's reality therapy as a discipline. Now, when you get to reality with Dr. Sarah, then now I'm a Southern girl through and through, and I give it to you straight. And it might be hot tea and it might be cold tea, but either way, you're going to get the truth from me. You will get the tea. So that's where the reality therapy came from.
I think that's great, and then that gives people a more relaxed setting, and that makes you more approachable, I think, with so many things going on in this world, we need someone that we can reach out to and relate to. I think that more people will come to therapy when they know, it's acceptable, and especially since we've been through COVID, we had a lot of people that are having mental health challenges, from being isolated. So are you seeing more people come into therapy after COVID?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are a countless number of individuals that I likely would have never met had it not been for the pandemic. And that has been one of the blessings of the pandemic. It has forced us to refocus and look inside and make those changes that probably we would have ignored had we been allowed to just move along in life as normal. That's one positive of the pandemic, is it has, yes, it was a stressful event in itself that created additional stressors, but at the same time, we had so many things that were unresolved anyway that required our attention.
Absolutely. So Dr. Sarah, if someone's out there and they're struggling with mental health, what advice would you give them?
Well, first and foremost, I always, as a therapist, I would say reach out to a licensed therapist, or in my situation, a certified coach, someone that's trained. And a lot of times we need someone that's outside of our immediate circle. We often will go to our spouse, our children, our neighbor, our friend, expecting somehow to get some resolution to a problem. But if you don't speak to someone that's neutral, that's also trained to see beneath the issue, then you're basically like talking to a brick wall. You're going to keep having the same trouble over and over again. We have to get to the root of the problem and figure out how to move forward. So my answer to that, if someone's struggling and they even think for a second they're struggling, reach out, use that phone, call, and make that appointment.
So Dr. Sarah, tell us how we can make an appointment with you. Give us your information one more time.
Absolutely. You can call or text me at 877-377-DRSARAW. You can go to my website and there's a contact me, and that's my website is drsarahw.org, or you can send me an email at drsarah@drsarahw.org.
But Dr. Sarah, we would like to thank you for letting your story become our story on What's Your Story. And thank you. And we're excited to have you on board at WYTV 7. And if you're out there and you're suffering from mental health, reach out to Dr. Williams, or you can reach out to the mental hotline. That's 1-800-273-8255, or you can remember 1-800-273-TALK. We'd like to thank you for being a part of our show tonight, Dr. Williams, and we're very excited to have you come on board. And if anyone's out there that would like to be on her show or my show, they can go to WYTV7.org. There where they can see the information for her show, as well as the information for my show, when it's airing, and get information. And you can also go there to give a donation at WYTV7.org. I'm Sharita Williams, and I would like to thank you for being on our show tonight, Dr. Williams. And until we meet again, we'll see you on Reality Tea Therapy. Thank you.
Thank you.